Welcome back to Financial Health, everyone. Brought to you by John G. Ullman and Associates. Jason Nickerson, President and COO, joining us again this week. Jason, as we continue our coverage, as we have the past several weeks, of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. This week, we're focused on what is truly new in the tax code. So what do our viewers need to know?
Yeah, new individual provisions. What everyone's kind of been waiting for, right, is some explanation on how some of these work. But again, it's important to seek guidance. As we go through this, we're only touching really the top level of all of these things. And a lot of what we're doing right now, and our advisors and our tax professionals are doing, are meeting with clients in person, on video meetings, over the phone, just to kind of go through those tax projections to say, hey, here's, we kind of know what's been in the tax law. We've covered those. How do these new provisions impact all of you? And there's a few that were being heavily talked about, maybe in some different light, right? So the first one we'll actually start with is called the senior deduction. Now, this has kind of spun into something different than what it was originally being talked about, which was really eliminating tax on Social Security. What we ended up with was an enhanced deduction for seniors, meaning people age 65 and older. There's a temporary deduction. It's in place from 2025 through 2029. People can get up to $6,000 additional deduction from income. There is a phase out based on income for people over 75,000. For individuals and 150,000 for joint filers. So there is something there. It's just not a deduction directly against Social Security. One of the other ones that was talked about quite a bit is eliminating tax on tips. What many don't know is that tip income was not actually taxed until the early 1980s under Ronald Reagan. And so we're now bringing back at least some reduction of tax against tips. It's a new deduction. It's capped at $25,000. Now, it does begin to phase out when modified adjusted gross income hits 150,000 for individuals or 300,000 for joint filers. And I emphasize the modified because this isn't the traditional adjusted gross income calculation. It can be a little different. So again, talk to your tax professional, your advisor about what modified adjusted gross income means when it comes to this. And it's gonna roll right into the next one, which is the no tax on overtime adjustment and implementation into the bill. The deduction is capped at $12,500 for overtime compensation, and that begins to phase out at $100,000 for individuals, $200,000 for joint filers. Now, a couple of others that we're going to need to dig in a little bit deeper on and wait for more information to come out. One of them is the Trump accounts that we've heard about for newborn children. These are tax favored type savings accounts. Not a lot of information out there yet as to how they're going to be implemented, but stay tuned on that. And we may come back and do a whole episode on how to, get the most benefits out of those for folks. And then the last one, this is my favorite because I've been getting a lot of questions on this, including should I go out and buy a new car because I'm going to get a $10,000 rebate if I buy a new car, and that is not the case. This is an automobile loan interest deduction. So it's a temporary deduction. It's only in place from 2025 to 2028. So bear in mind, a lot of people are taking 5 and 6 year loans. This is a deduction that's only in place for potentially 4 years. So be mindful of that. There's a lot of other nuances to this. And so you have to be very, very clear on what you're doing before you go implement, right? It's a deduction of up to $10,000. You do have to borrow money against this car to get the deduction. It has to be a new car. Final assembly has to be in the United States. There are weight restrictions. There's no used cars. Those don't qualify. So there's a lot to this one that really needs to be understood before you just go on the lot and pick a brand new car.
All right. Well, all very good to know. Jason, thank you for taking the last couple of weeks to walk us all through this. And we also want to remind our viewers that if you'd like to learn even more about some of these new provisions and how you may be affected by your individual situation, JGUA is hosting a live in-depth event happening on Monday, September 15th at 6 p.m. It is free. It's open to the public. It's both in person and being streamed online for people who are not in the area and would still like to take part, ask some questions. So we're going to stay tuned for registration details on that, Jason. And thank you for joining us and to our viewers for being part of this income tax update series. So we will see you next week back here on Financial Health.
My pleasure. We'll see you next week.